A warm welcome. You have been drawn to this moment, not by accident, but by the quiet invitation of the Lord Himself. He calls you now to step away from distractions, to enter into His presence, and to witness something profound. "6 days before the Passover, Jesus arrives in Bethany, in the home of His dear friends. Here, in the warmth of shared meals and familiar faces, He pauses before the road ahead, the road to the cross. Tonight is a night of friendship, of service, of quiet devotion. But it is also a night filled with meaning, with something deeper stirring beneath the surface. The scent of food fills the air, voices murmur in conversation, and Lazarus, the man who once lay in a tomb, sits at the table, alive. Something is about to happen. The Lord invites you to be present, to watch, to listen, to enter into this moment with Him. Will you step in? Close your eyes for a moment. Let's step outside of time. We're about to journey into a space where centuries of seekers have found profound connection. This isn't just any other meditation, it's imaginative contemplation, a way to experience the divine vividly, to let your deepest desires surface, and to feel the quiet, transformative power of this sacred moment. Find a quiet space away from all distractions and take a comfortable posture. Close your eyes, stretch, take deep breaths, and let go of the day's worries. Feel the presence of the indwelling God. Before this night in Bethany, something extraordinary had taken place, something that sent shockwaves through the region. Lazarus had died. His body had been sealed in a tomb for 4 days. The mourning was over, the grave was closed, and all hope was gone. Yet, in a moment that defied reason, Jesus stood before that tomb, called Lazarus by name, and death itself obeyed. The dead man walked out, alive, wrapped in burial cloths, breathing again by the power of Christ. The news spread like wildfire. Many believed, their faith ignited by what they had seen. But others ran to the religious leaders, who saw this not as a miracle, but as a threat. From that day, the plan to kill Jesus was set in motion. Tension hangs in the air. The Passover is near. The city whispers with talk of Him, some ready to crown Him, others ready to destroy Him. And now, in the quiet town of Bethany, in the home of Lazarus, a dinner is prepared. A moment of rest. A moment of love. But beneath it all, something deeper is unfolding, something only He fully understands. Passover was the most sacred feast of the Jewish people, a time of remembrance, a celebration of God's deliverance. Every year, thousands of pilgrims flooded Jerusalem, bringing lambs for sacrifice, preparing their hearts to recall how the Lord had rescued their ancestors from slavery in Egypt. The city was alive with expectation, filled with the scent of roasting lamb, the sound of prayers rising from the temple, and the weight of tradition handed down for generations. But this year, this Passover, something greater was unfolding. The true Lamb of God was among them, walking the very streets where sacrifice was offered, preparing to give himself for the salvation of the world. The night air is warm at Bethany, a small village located on the eastern slope of the Mount of Olives, beside Jerusalem. The house is thick with the mingling scents of aromas from the kitchen, traditional delicacies, fresh bread, roasted lamb and other dishes, and the distant burn of oil lamps. The room is alive with voices, some deep in conversation, others laughing, sharing food and stories. The glow of the lamps flickers off the clay walls, casting long shadows that stretch and sway with every movement. Jesus is here, sitting at the table, reclining with his friends. The glow of the oil lamps casts flickering shadows across his face. His eyes, deep and knowing, take in everything: the food, the laughter, the silent glances exchanged between the disciples. He smiles, but there is something behind that smile, something distant. While Martha is seen moving quickly, in and out between the kitchen and the table, bringing dishes and arranging them, remember, Lazarus is here too. The one who was dead, the one Jesus called back to life from the grave. Just days ago, his tomb was sealed, his body wrapped in linen. And now, he eats and drinks as if death had never touched him. A living sign, a quiet miracle among us. A reminder that death itself bends at Jesus' command. Can you imagine hearing the house filled with voices? Low murmurs, occasional laughter, the clatter of dishes as they pass from hand to hand. It is a night of celebration, but there is a heaviness in the air. A tension, unspoken but felt. Something is about to happen. The night is about to change. And then she appears from the room. That is Mary, the sister of Lazarus and Martha of Bethany. She moves without a word, stepping forward from the edge of the room, her hands clutching something, a jar. A small, delicate thing of alabaster, smooth and cool in her grip. I don't know if anyone else sees her at first, but I do. I see the way she trembles slightly, the way her breath catches as she kneels beside him. And then, she breaks the jar. A sharp snap, a shattering, and suddenly, the fragrance. Rich, sweet, overwhelming. It rushes through the room like a living thing, curling into every corner, clinging to our skin, our clothes. Spikenard. Pure. Costly. More than a year's wages in a single moment, poured out without hesitation. She anoints his feet first. The oil runs over his skin, catching in the lines of his heels, glistening under the dim light. She smooths it with her hands, slow and reverent, her fingers tracing the path of her devotion. And then, she does something that makes us all stop breathing. She loosens her hair. A woman's hair, unbound, uncovered in public. It's unthinkable. And yet, she lets it fall freely, cascading down as she bends forward. And with it, she wipes his feet. Not with a cloth. Not with a towel. With herself. There is no sound now. No laughter. No conversation. Just the whisper of her hair against his skin and the steady inhale of breath as the perfume invades our senses. Then, from the other side of the table, Judas speaks. Why wasn't this perfume sold for 300 denarii and given to the poor? His voice is sharp, cutting through the stillness. His eyes flicker with something I can't quite name, resentment, greed, something darker. Jesus does not look at him. Instead, he looks at Mary. This woman who has just poured out everything, without shame, without calculation, without fear of what we think. His voice is quiet but firm. Leave her alone. She has kept this for the day of my burial. Burial. The word falls heavy in the room. A reminder of what is coming. She knows. Somehow, Mary knows. While the rest of us are caught in plans, in doubts, in distractions, she sees him. She knows where he is going, what awaits him. And so she gives everything. The scent of the perfume lingers. It will stay in his hair, his robe, his skin for days. Through the streets of Jerusalem. Through the Last Supper. Through betrayal. Through the trial. Through the cross. Even as the blood and sweat pour from him, the fragrance of love will remain, even to the grave. A silent witness, a preparation for what is to come. And we sit here, watching, breathing it in. But do we understand? Do you? Breathe in deeply. Can you smell the nard? Can you hear the jar breaking? Can you feel the tension in the room, the weight of what she has done? This is not just Mary's moment. It is yours too. What are you holding back, dear friend? What is still unbroken, unpoured, held tight in your hands? Because love, true love, costs something. And the only question is, will you give it? Can you hear the voices in the room? The murmuring disciples? The distant crackle of the oil lamp? What do you feel in the air? Anticipation? Awe? Confusion? Now, look at Mary. Watch as she pours every single drop of perfume over his feet, continuing to wipe them with her hair. Watch the way Jesus looks at her, not with shock, not with rebuke, but with deep, unshaken love. Now, shift your gaze to Judas. Watch his cold, sharp objection. And hear Jesus' response. Leave her alone. Let those words settle. What is he saying to you? Where do you find yourself in this room? Watching from the corner? Protesting like Judas? Kneeling in surrender like Mary? Hold that thought. Stay there. Because this moment is not just history, it is a call. The scent lingers. Even after the jar is shattered, even after the words are spoken, the fragrance remains. It will cling to Jesus for days, through the streets of Jerusalem, through the trial, through the cross. It is the scent of love freely given. Mary did not wait. She did not count the cost. She poured everything out while she still had the chance. And now, what about you? What do you still hold back? What is the alabaster jar in your hands, the thing too costly, too precious to break? Because love that does not cost is love that is not complete. And right now, Jesus is at the table of your life, waiting. The jar is in your hands. What will you do? Because he is here, right now, sitting at the table of your life. And the question lingers in the air, thick as the perfume, what will you pour out for him? Continue to remain in this sacred space. Mention a word or two in sweet surrender to Jesus. Just soak in for a few more minutes and then you can arise as anew.